J'aime les saisons chaudes, taffer des prods, rater l'école, taper des conneries belles, parler de sexe, drogue, flow, no, just joke, toutes sortes, pas les faire, pas replay, la majorité, pas regarder d'adresse, réseau pro, postuler dans la faculté, tu ne prendras pas le métro, FDP en taxi vélo, madame.
What did you think of France when you first moved?
Good question. I think I always knew that I wanted to come to France. I definitely wanted to do a year abroad in France as such. But then I think as many things in life, like when it finally comes around to it, you don't really know what to expect. It was one of those things that just came around extremely quickly. And yeah, I mean, it kind of just happened. It's cliche as that sounds. It kind of just happened. Like 2-3 weeks before I came, I was like, haven't sorted anything out, which is quite typical for me. So typical deep fashion, left it really late. Yeah, to tell you the honest truth, I didn't really know what to expect. Other than the fact that I knew that I was going to eat well.
Oh, explain the bon appetit kind of culture over here, like when it comes to eating.
I think that's one thing that I really love about the French, is that there is no time or meal time. Do you know what I mean? Like every meal is really like appreciated, and I like that because I don't know. Especially like as a Christian, like, I think it's just so important to share meals together. And I don't know, like I think it sounds stupid, but meals can be a very passive thing in the sense that it's very easy to just spend your life just eating meals alone. Definitely one thing I've learned about the French, I've learned to appreciate that even the simplest of meals can be appreciated.
That's actually true. Like even if I'm having like chips and a burger, like my flatmate's like bon appetit. Like I'm like, okay, it's just a burger, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, I like that mentality because it's kind of a bit like you don't need something huge or like grandiose to like appreciate.
Space.
When you came, like what was your first day like?
My first day was actually a little bit stressful. I arrived at my flat. So basically before I came to Lyon, I had a flat sorted. Basically, I arrived at my flat and we'll say it was a bit of an experience. I think I've told you the story actually. Put it simply, it was basically got to the flat. We'll say the pictures did it a lot more justice than need be. I think as soon as I arrived, like my face kind of dropped, and I was with my dad and my brother, and they were obviously, I guess, like when people know you so well, even when you're trying your best not to really like show any reaction or any emotion, they already know what you're thinking. So her dad just kind of looked at me and was like, well, you know, there's always somewhere else. For me, it's, I don't know, I always say that like God's got a bigger plan for your life, and like when you make plans, God kind of laughs. I think that situation really like does that justice, because I arrived and I thought, oh yeah, you know, not to worry, got this flat sorted, all done, it's all calm, and then kind of got here, realised the flat wasn't what it was.
What were the emotions that you were feeling at that moment?
Instantly I was just kind of like, well, you know, you are a little fish in a big ocean. For me, it really was one of those things that people were like to me, oh wow, you're not nervous? And I was like, oh, no, it'll be fine. And I think that's the irony of this situation, because like, it was everything but fine at the time. But, you know, I think as well, at the same time, it is important to not to get carried away in that time, like to just kind of think that it is going to be alright.
Okay.
You know, like if you have faith, then there'll be an end to the situation, you know, you'll find a way out. So yeah, as much as it was nerve-wracking, and as much as I did feel like, God, why have you brought me here? You know, I knew that there was going to be a way out. You know?
And is there anything or any person that stood out to you particularly during your setback?
I probably had to say my brother at the time, because I think that's the kind of thing about having an older sibling, and the difference that an older sibling is compared to a parent. A parent will always worry, like naturally. Out of the love that they have for you, they're always just going to show it perhaps by like stress, perhaps by fear. You know. I think sometimes as adolescents, as young people, we can kind of be like, why are you like getting stressed out? You know, it's really not that deep, but it's because they love you. Do you know what I mean? And so at that time, whilst my dad was like getting proper stressed out, it was cool because like my brother was just kind of that reassuring voice that, you know, it'll be alright. You messed up, but it'll be alright. You know, we wouldn't have kept sane, because at that time I really was just fretting like never before. I was kind of like, wow, they're leaving in like 2 days, and then I'm going to be on my own. I haven't found a flat. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to like stay in a hostel for about 2-3 weeks? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, all kind of thoughts were going through my head. When you've never been in this situation before, I think you can be very hasty, because you're kind of like, because you haven't experienced it, you're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. Like, I know so many people that have moved abroad and stuff, and you know, they've managed to get through it. But then when you're really in that situation, like, you don't anticipate what you're going to feel, or you know, or what you're gonna go through.
Je crois pas que j'ai le choix, gros, c'est pas que des blabla. Sur celle-là, je vais pas parler, choix. Et même s'il y a du monde derrière, je vois les choses de l'intérieur. Et sur ma tête qu'il y a rien de space. Sur ma tête qu'il y a rien de space. Malgré c'est rien de spécial. Ce son il a rien de spécial. L'instru elle a rien de spécial. Je sais même pas je fais quoi. Demain ça fait rien de spécial. Et ça sert à rien de faire style. Gros y a rien de spécial. Tu pensais que le chemin était tout tracé, mais tu te rappelles que t'as rien de spécial. Poto passe nous voir. Poto passe nous voir.
For you, how did you feel like France greeted you?
As in, like, how was I received?
Yes, both by the people and the actual country itself.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, I'd say it definitely was warm. I'd definitely say that, you know, credit to French people, because like they are definitely like warm. Like when they, you know, you might not necessarily kind of like wave to a stranger, but the way that people greet you and welcome you is incredibly warm. Like my in the first apartment that I was in, like the first time I even like met my landlords, and you know, they were just very kind of just very like accepting, and for a while like they'd kind of like bring me fresh tomatoes from the garden and things like that. So, you know, I definitely say by the people, yeah, I was welcomed really well. And especially like the church that I go to now, the very moment that I walked in, like everyone was just so like you know, I just felt very well received, and you know, I guess that's the only thing you can ask for. You live in Europe, like, you know,
Especially Britain.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you go to school in the UK or whatever, and you're from the UK, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to France. It's not going to be that different, you know. If Tom, Dick, and Harry from like all across the globe can do it, then, you know, it won't be that much of a shock for me. It just was kind of a bit of a moment where I was like, wow, you know, don't go into any situation like thinking or expecting it to work in this way. It's not that I would say that I wouldn't think of myself from that, but I know I didn't really expect myself to think like that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I get what you mean.
You know, as a nation, I feel like you take a lot for granted. The fact that you like live in a country which has the most spoken language, you know, and then you come here and then you're like, oh, okay, actually I need to speak your language. Fair enough, like I guess you're a French student, so you're like, oh yeah, I've come here to learn. But then when you can't find the words, you then automatically rely on this crutch, which is your mother tongue.
Yeah.
There were definitely times where I was in situations where no one spoke a word of English, and I would just have to get through it. I'd say as an individual it shaped me to really just be a lot more just a lot more understanding of the struggle that people go through. I think it definitely like shaped my view in that respect.
C'est le temps de l'amour, le temps des copains et de l'aventure. Quand le temps va et vient, on ne pense à rien malgré ses blessures.
1998, on veut une haute marche, j'espère t'as remarqué. Ma team c'est comme un train.
What was the university experience like for you?
It was kind of a bit of a shock in the sense that the lecturing style here is very different. It's first and foremost, for me, like the style is more of a kind of like more of a dictation. You literally are writing a transcript of their lecture, which I guess is a bit different to what I'm used to. I think it's definitely a lot more prescriptive way of learning compared to like the Anglo-Saxon way of doing it.
How did you feel like you fit in amongst like the university environment, like by the advisors, by the students, just generally?
For me, coming from a small university, you really do kind of know one another. Don't necessarily know each other well, but you still know one another. So like when there is an international student that walks into the classroom or like into the lecture theatre, like people will kind of know. I did feel a bit anonymous. Like the student-teacher rapport, for me that's like a huge, I don't know, I feel like there's a huge imbalance between the way it works in the UK and you know, I really hope that like France overcomes like this idea of you know, I'm your teacher, I know better than you, you're here to just sit down and listen to my lecture, because I feel like for me, like academia is really just about sharing. Like it's about sharing your knowledge, and students are there because they want to engage with what you have to say. They want to know more about your subject. And for me, I think that that's like quite humbling. The way it works in France here is that, like, you know, your lecturer is your teacher. For me, it's almost as if like they think you don't have respect for the teacher. So as a result for that, you need to compensate for it, and you know, you need to really be over the top. For me, I think that it's kind of a bit of a given. Like if you're in further education, like you're there by choice.
How did you feel alongside English friends in a foreign country?
I think I expected just to meet lots of English people. Like, oh wow, it's gonna be so cool because you know I'm gonna meet loads of people from like all around the UK, and then you know we'll go back into fourth year, and then you know we'll all still be in touch. Don't limit yourself to friendships because people don't speak the language, the target language that you're going to study in. No, not at all.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like some people do actually take that a bit too far. Like, oh no, I don't want to meet English people. Like, you know, you don't know who you're going to meet. Do you know what I mean? Prohibit yourself from meeting some amazing people, you know, just because of the fact that they're from the same country as you. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is more, you know, don't just put yourself in the same situations or the same environments that you put yourself in, you know, pre-Erasmus or pre-year abroad.
And it's a different type of bond that you form when you're in a different environment, like that's foreign to your own.
Yeah.
Because like it's almost like you depend on them a little bit emotionally because you know that they get you.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that. The way that like you do depend on them emotionally. Like that's that's pretty clever, like that thought.
It's been nice hanging out with you.
Yeah, me too.
Have you enjoyed the interview?
Yeah, it's been fun.